Sir, happy Friday to you as well.
Yeah, we hit over 100,000 before 5 p.m. yesterday. That was
Yeah, it looks about 8 to 9,000 every hour. Is that right?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Excellent. Thank you.
We're gonna see what happens. I'm trying to get some more tangible numbers.
Yeah, if I have digital lists, I think I can sell those. I have people online asking about listenership and where they're calling from. So I think if I have that data, it'll be easier to get those sponsors.
Guys, if you could tell Lynn to call us in the studio whenever he gets a second.
If you're looking for cake decorating tips, you've got the wrong baking station. K-High.
Wrong baking station. Good business. Hey, good morning. It is a beautiful day to talk about cannabis. This is Charles, the Cannabusiness Attorney. I can be reached at charles@thecannabusinessattorney.com. Got my partner in crime here, Casey. Casey,
good
how
morning,
you doing
Mr. Houghton. You know, it's a beautiful day for America, a beautiful day for cannabis, and I like that rock and roll to kick it off. This is a Cannabis Business Attorney Hour, and there's a lot going down. Some of the biggest news we've seen this morning, Mr. Houghton, I think we both had it on our hit list, is what's going on with the Senate committee clearing the way for medical marijuana for veterans.
Yeah. The Senate Appropriations Committee approved what they're calling a historic bipartisan amendment Thursday that aims to increase veterans' access to medical marijuana. It's called the Veterans Equal Access Amendment, and it was added to the Military Construction and Veteran Affairs appropriation bills passed the committee 18-12.
And this is big news. I'm a veteran. This city is surrounded by veterans, the Air Force Academy, Fort Carson, the Space Command. And here in Colorado, we see them, Mr. Houghton, thousands of people with PTSD, literally thousands, and they are suffering. I've seen them walk into the studio with just handfuls of pills.
Yeah, and it says in the article that nearly 30% of military veterans who served in Iraq or Afghanistan suffer from PTSD and depression, and the suicide statistics are scary.
It's the 22 we're hearing, the 22 a day.
Yeah, and that in and of itself is a crime. I mean, we put these young men and women in harm's way, ask them to do the unthinkable, and then we can't even provide them with the tools that they need in order to cope with what they had to do and see.
Yeah, this is a historical shift from a federal body. That's what makes this one so appealing to me. It's the first time ever that a Senate body has approved a marijuana reform measure.
Yeah, I saw that. It says the Senate amendment marks the first time in history of Congress's upper chamber that has voted positively on marijuana reform legislation.
And that's huge. So we look about the problems here as business people. My biggest concern is the federal government. What we do every day by growing, selling, testing, and infusing marijuana, it's a lot of fun. But all over your head is that hawk of the federal authorities. And we see movement like this. We watch trend lines. And this is a trend line that is a line drawn in the sand for us, where the federal authorities are proposing to allow VA doctors to recommend and discuss for the first time in our history medical marijuana as a potential option for veterans in states where medical marijuana is legal. Only in states where medical marijuana is legal.
And also, too, we've got the other issue that's arisen, and that is that a lot of states in their medical marijuana legislation do not recognize PTSD as one of the debilitating medical conditions.
And that's true here in Colorado, for example. We've been working for almost a decade to have PTSD added to the list of approved conditions for recommending medical marijuana, and it's been denied. So I look forward to using this as a stepping stone to actually add PTSD to the qualifying conditions here. And this sets a new standard. I want to give a shout out to Senators Steve Daines, Republican, Montana, and Senator Jeff Merkley, Democrat, Oregon. Once again, seeing Republicans and Democrats across this nation, from Montana to Oregon, working together. We've spent the last 10 years watching our government tear each other apart, left versus right. And the one thing I see them working together on, Mr. Houghton, marijuana.
Yeah, and it is a polarizing topic without a doubt. But, you know, out of that kind of conflict comes good decisions. And I see this, you know, granted it's just the Senate committee that approved it.
That's right.
Granted, we got a long way to go before it gets to the president's desk, but every incremental step that we can, where the answer is yes, is a giant step forward the way I look at it.
Yeah, you mentioned that before, and if you're listening to a radio show and you're not down with the marijuana matrix, you're going to get tuned in and turned on real quick. When we're talking about the Senate committee clears the way for marijuana for veterans, that's not the end all. That's the first step. That is currently now in a conference committee, and that will decide if they can resolve that with the House proposal to actually be sent to the POTUS for a signature. So even if the bill is killed in the conference committee, there is a version of the amendment still alive in Congress called the Careers Act. That's the one that's supported by Senators Cory Booker and Rand Paul, once again, Democrat, Republican. So even if this bill is killed in committee, there's still chance for this. However, I would urge all of our senators and representatives to not deny this access for those veterans. It is a tragedy that they are suffering from PTSD, let alone being prescribed opiate-based medicines that have remarkable side effects. I've seen it all the time. It's not theoretical. Cannabis does help.
And the statistics that we saw from the use of opiates, 16,235 people died.
Right. There should be a campaign to prohibit.
2013 alone.
Right. There should be, instead of this Reefer Madness campaign, there should be a Prescription Madness campaign about how prescription drugs are the real killers of Americans. It's not cannabis, my friends. It is big pharma feeding us Reefer Madness lies, and those are slowly being torn apart by you, the American people. We believe at the Academy the best way to end prohibition, Mr. Houghton, one business at a time.
Yes, exactly. One business at a time, one state at a time, one county at a time, one city at a time.
And that's what happens. So you can change the laws too, and this is huge. So I'd like to salute all of our veterans out there, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, because I've seen it myself. I'm a veteran, and this is a very good way to start the day. I'd just like to read a quote, Mr. Houghton, from the Drug Policy Alliance, Michael Collins. He quotes, "Veterans in medical marijuana states should be treated the same as any other resident and should be able to discuss marijuana with their doctor and use it if it's medically necessary." You know, get out of the way of the doctor-patient relationship, basically. And so thank you very much, Michael Collins. Congratulations. I think you're absolutely right. To deny that as a potential cure or a means to an ends for these veterans is morally indefensible.
Yeah, I mean, to withhold it from people that we've, you know, subjected to some of the most horrific things that any human being can imagine, you know, that's the tragedy.
Yeah, what concerns me also, Mr. Houghton, it did clear the committee, but it wasn't by a vast majority. It was only 18-12. What are those other 12 senators concerned about? Yeah,
again, I don't know. There's you never know. You know, I would attribute it to, you know, Reefer Madness 2.0 and people being just stuck in their ways, and they refuse to learn about what can happen positively if people use this as medicine.
Yeah, it's called enlightenment for a reason. If you can educate someone, you can see through demagogues and lies and deceit and misleading, and the light of education and truth will hit you hard and fast once you lift that curtain. And that's what we do here. It's wonderful working with you, Mr. Houghton, but that is a great news for veterans. And if you want to learn more about how this applies to you as a business and an entrepreneur, join us in Kansas City on June 5th at the Uptown Theater. The one and only Mr. Charles T. Houghton will be there. We'll be explaining the hemp bills, the hemp business models, the medical and recreational marijuana bills, and those models. So how you, as an American entrepreneur, can watch the law, prepare for the law, and end prohibition with your business.
Exactly. And, you know, and there's just, this is the first time in my lifetime, and I've been around for a while, this is the first time in my lifetime, other than the what I consider the fake .com boom, where there was just a bunch of smoke and mirrors and money moving and no real substance to it. This is the first time in my lifetime that I have seen an industry from its infancy to it's slowly but surely maturing. It's still in its infancy, but I am amazed at every day what I see as opportunities for people who want to get into business, who want to, tell their boss what he can do with it or what she can do.
And we've
with
seen
it.
that actually up there in Alaska, where that one news broadcaster
stormed off the
set and actually, F it, I quit.
Yeah.
Right there. And she actually was running a medical marijuana center operation, preparing it for business behind the scenes as a reporter in Alaska and live on set, because she knew the rules. She knew the regulations were coming. She had been reporting on them for months, took advantage of that, and, just walked right off the set. That's the way to take this job and shove it.
Yeah. I don't recommend that as a general policy for treating your employer that way.
I find it a brilliant marketing campaign.
Well, I do too. But I mean, and there was a lot that went into her decision to do that.
I believe they did not want to give her the 2 weeks notice. I think they asked her to leave. It was quite an event.
Oh yeah, no, it was. Don't let the door hit you on the backside on the way out.
There's a lot going on up in Alaska. Also, there's the ABC board is now creating the marijuana board. So we see, if you're listening across the nation, there's 4 states that have approved recreational marijuana. That's Alaska, Oregon, Washington, and Colorado. Colorado is by far the most advanced and most progressed because the laws have been established and are implemented. Right now in Alaska, while the law had been approved, and Mr. Allen will tell you, now it's going through the sausage process of what does that actually mean legislatively. How do we take those applications? Who accepts those applications? What are the fees? Where can you have it? How many parking spots do you need?
Exactly. And for example, in Colorado, the medical marijuana code and the retail marijuana code, if you put them together, there are less than 150 pages worth of stuff.
It's great reading, by the way, if you like whereas and wherefores and ors and ands.
If you have trouble sleeping and whatever it is that you're using isn't helping, let me send you a copy of the statutes and I can guarantee you a good night's sleep.
I like reading Senate bills. It's good.
But, but the thing is that the statute, the constitutional amendments are, literally 2 or 3 pages.
Sure.
The statutes that interpret the constitutional amendments, 150 pages or so. Then if you look at the rules that interpret the statutes, that's another 200-300 pages.
That's a very good point, Mr. Houghton. If you listen to this and you want to seize the moment, this is dissecting that sausage, how it happens. The constitutional amendment or proposal will pass, and then that'll be a real short 2-pager, treat marijuana like alcohol, etc. And then it goes into the legislative process, and then you have those rules, then you have the enforcement division rules, and by the end of this, you have hundreds of pages of documents that will regulate the rights and responsibilities you have as a marijuana matrix player. And we like it and love it. And that's what we're here every day for. So congratulations to Alaska. And what the ABC board, they're actually meeting, they had the Cannabis Cup up there this week in Alaska. A lot of action going on. I've been following it night and day. But there is a huge sense of optimism. They are doing it very differently than what we've done here on the mainland, on the continental United States up here. But this is unique. Hope we have a caller in on the line later this afternoon, this morning. But this is a push and shove. Someone actually jumped the gun up there in Alaska, Mr. Houghton. Apparently, the owner of Potluck's Events, a marijuana club, opened up his doors and was then recently asked not to do that. The Anchorage Assembly has a proposal to treat marijuana like smoke. So the Alaskans are taking advantage of their rights, smoking, using cannabis, and now the legislative body's reacting, saying, hey, wait a minute, this is like cigarettes kind of. So right there is a response to reaction from the populace, where now a new law is proposed to treat marijuana just like smoke. So people would not be allowed to smoke within 5 feet of an entrance, a license to a place that serves alcohol, not within 50 feet of a hospital or medical clinic entrance. And that is kind of interesting. They're defining public space and looking to ban consumption on public property and in public places, defined as a place to which the public or the substantial group of persons has access to, including streets, highways, sidewalks, alleys, transportation facilities, parks, and playgrounds. That's a pretty broad interpretation of
Public, yeah.
That's a whole lot of places you can get caught. There is a proposed $100 fine in Alaska for consuming marijuana in a public place.
And we're beginning to see again that it's the rules, and that is that's not the entire state of Alaska. That's just Anchorage. Other cities may do something a little bit different.
That's right. Those local license authority. One gentleman opened up potluck events, and he quotes, "We had so many people that have come in that have never experienced anything like this, and they absolutely love it." He says, "Club members pay a membership fee, bring in and share their own marijuana products, hang out with others doing the same. Collins," he says, "believes his business is operating legally. Au contraire," says Cynthia Franklin, director of Alaska's Alcohol, Beverage, and Control Board.
Did she really say au contraire?
No, that was mine.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
She suggests that potluck events is skirting around the original intent of the law, which Governor Bill Walker recently signed, creating the Marijuana Control Board, which is now crafting Alaska's marijuana laws. So when you are listening to this show and you're planning your businesses, this gentleman, or actually this lady, Teresa Collins, was looking at the laws, thought she was in the rules, spent some time and money, opened up an operation, only to find herself caught between the ABC board and the out of business sign.
Yeah, between the ABC board and a hard place.
Yeah, and that is what you have to be careful of. I applaud Teresa Collins for taking advantage of the markets, but you have to be careful. Another gardener, AK Hydro Gardens owner Ryan Smith, was advised to close his doors last week. So there's a lot of action going on in Alaska, but really you need to know those laws.
Yeah, and it's growing pains. We saw it here in Colorado where people didn't understand the laws or didn't want to understand the laws and moved ahead, and a lot of them got caught in the crosshairs, and that's not a very good place to be. And so,
because those hundreds of pages of rules that we read and report on daily here at the Cannabusiness Attorney Hour, those matter, and the definition of those make a big difference. What is public? What is private? What is a club? When can you open? Where can you open? Those timelines and guidelines you need to know. So if you're in Alaska, I recommend you reaching out to Cynthia Franklin, director of Alaska's Alcohol, Beverage, and Control Board, to make sure that you avoid those crosshairs.
Yes, because if you jump the gun, that is not the pathway to a successful business.
You might find yourself in the line of a bullet.
Yeah, exactly. And also too, what we're also seeing too in Alaska and other places, I saw an article where our very own Glenn Beck, who he had a couple of people on over a series, one in favor of marijuana decriminalization and the use of marijuana, the other one not in favor. And basically what Glenn Beck came up with was
2 minutes.
We should let the people decide. And
that is what America really needs and is exhibiting, actually. Americans are deciding, even in the face of federal laws that treat this like a Schedule I drug and put you in jail.
Yeah, but it should go down to the lowest denominator. That means, the smallest form of government should have the most power. So the people in Anchorage should have more power than the county in which Anchorage sits, and more power than the state. And the same thing anywhere in the United States. One of Beck's quotes was, let the people decide, and you'll be surprised how responsible people are. Well, I'm not surprised. I've been in this business and I've watched very dedicated business people act very responsibly and jump through hoops that nobody else would jump through in order to stay in business. Not only are they responsible, they're incredibly resilient.
That's right, and that's what, if you know the laws and can prepare for them, when we talk about those Senate bills and House bills and Veterans Affairs bills, that opens up a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of doctors out there that are veterans too that are looking forward to helping these soldiers, and they could not before. So congratulations.
Yeah, and maybe they will actually be able to prescribe something that won't cause the veterans to kill themselves.
That's right.
Or take that thought out of their head. So anyway, when we get back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit more about Utah, and we're going to have somebody from Alaska. We'll see you on the other side.
Can I just have one more morning dance with you, my love?
Long-held traditions meet newfound freedoms at Hashish House. Come to the Pueblo West spot that has the biggest selection of it's in your clear. That's why Hashish House has a quality atmosphere and knowledgeable experts that speak from personal experience. Instant feedback, quality selection, and customer service. That's what sets the rest and proud of it. Located at 428 South McCullough Boulevard. You can give them a call at 719-547-1009 or check them out on PuebloDispensary.com.
Want to go dispensary shopping? Yeah, grab my phone. Yeah, there's an app for that. An app for dispensary shopping? Yep, I can buy directly to my favorite dispensary. Hear about specials, etc. Easy peasy. I gotta download this app.
Where you at, Vince?
Your call has been forwarded to TELUS Mobility Voice Messaging Center. Melanie Smith
Melanie Smith.
is not available. At the tone, please record.
729-9662. Yeah, that's it.
Maybe I dialed 906.
Hello, sir.
Hey, good morning, Ben. How's Alaska doing? It's early up there. Thank you for getting out of bed.
Hey, thank you. We're just listening to you.
Hey, there's a lot going on in Alaska. We'll have about a good 15-20-minute segment because you are one of those 4 recreational marijuana states. You are on the line with Mr. Houghton live. And
Mr. Houghton in 60.
Yeah, we'll be back in 60 seconds, and you'll be live on the radio when we get back in 60 seconds. So you'll hear some music. Casey or I or both of us will introduce you. Casey will introduce you, ask you a little bit of questions about your background, and then we'll just, bat it around back and forth from there.
Excellent.
yeah,
Ready to wing it.
there's a whole lot of action in Alaska. The Cannabis Cup was right there too, right?
Yep. Was just up at it. Actually, it was at that potluck events place you were just talking about.
Perfect. That'll be excellent. Thank you, Ben. I know you're the man. We'll go silent.
Living with multiple sclerosis, I'm in pain every day. Medical marijuana is my last resort, and it helps me when all other drugs have failed. If you'd like more information about medical marijuana, you can contact the Marijuana Policy Project at mpp.org or call 1-877-JOIN-MPP.
Coming soon to a radio near you. It's already here. Oh, man. How long was I out? What you got there, Christopher Robin? No, that's not very good. I smoked weed long before they paid me to.
Really?
They're live. All right, it's a Michael Jackson flashback. It is an exciting day here for cannabis. We are fortunate to have a caller on the line from the frontier himself. Ben, introduce yourself and tell us what's going on in Alaska.
Hi, y'all. My name's Benjamin Wilcox. I live up here in Juneau, Alaska, and a lot's happening. It's going fast, faster than we expected. The dominoes, they're just moving faster than I think any of us planned. And as we're watching the rest of the country, noticing it's picking up speed faster and faster as legislators start taking on the mantle of this, and just introducing bills, skipping the whole process, knowing what their citizens want, just coming to the table with something.
Well,
Now they can just cut and paste from other states. They don't need to wait for all this stuff to happen. You guys especially have taken the brunt of it. You've worked out a lot of it for us. Washington, they've got their angles, but they were a little behind you. As we're going along, we're definitely taking from both of you and trying to make it a little better. But from here on out, any of the states that want to, they don't have to wait. They don't have to go through 2 years of initiatives and all that crap. You just have those legislators walk right in. They can pull half of your bill, half of Washington, some of ours, some of Oregon's, throw it in a pile, and within 6 months, hopefully they can have something rolling.
Well, Ben, it's been interesting.
3 years, we're going to be more than happy.
Well, Ben, it's been interesting because we've known you. You're actually a Marijuana Business Academy alumni. It was probably 1.5 years ago, and we've been working on these plans. And it looks like all that hard work is actually doing exactly what the plan was for, is to help legislate, regulate, be a part of that process, be on the inside. We've seen reports of the Cannabis Cup up there this weekend. We've seen the potluck events report. We've seen the AK Hydro Gardens. We see the ABC boards. There's a whole lot going down. What are your thoughts about the Cannabis Cup that was just held up there?
Well, I was actually up for that. That was my sixth conference trip in the last year. The one when I met you in Colorado was the first one last June, and I've been out of town 6 times for those. And this one ranked up there. It was a lot of real good information in the presentations, a lot of real, enthusiastic vendors. Everybody was real excited. It was definitely unique. It was Alaskan. I haven't seen Extra Tufts at any of the other events, and
wait a minute.
with Extra Tufts walking around.
Wait a minute.
Keeping our own personality.
Hold on. What did you say?
What's the Alaskan way?
Extra Tufts with a suit.
Extra Tufts with a suit. Okay, explain that to me.
Well, have you ever seen Extra Tufts? The big rubber boots?
Okay, now I got you.
Okay.
They're called Juno sneakers.
Juno sneakers.
We could use them down here lately.
Well, thank you for helping us understand your dialogue up there in the great frontier, sir. So there's business suits and big boots going on in Alaska.
Business suits and big boots. I love it.
Hey, we're trying.
So the Cannabis Cup was better than ever. The ABC board, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's where the metal meets the road here, or the metal meets the pavement, or the knife meets the blood. What is happening with the ABC board?
Well, I mean, I never thought I'd be doing something like this, but I mean, I really do want to thank, the legislature, our governor, our local assembly, their staff, our planning commission, and really especially Cynthia Franklin, Bob, Sarah, and the rest of the guys up there kicking some ass at the ABC board. I mean, they put in a lot of hard work. They could have just shirked this. They could have made it a non-priority, let it drag on. They haven't. They've been on the ball. They understand the importance of the regulated market to eliminate the black market. We have a prosecutor. Cynthia Franklin is a former prosecutor, so she really understands that, that approach.
Well,
they've had a
you
really
Cynthia.
intelligent, thoughtful, and informed, well-balanced approach to the whole regulation and implementation process.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Cynthia Franklin, because she was quoted as kind of suggesting that the potlucks events had jumped the gun, but later on, and she does go on to say that she believes one day there will be legal marijuana clubs, just not yet in Alaska. So that it really shows from a prosecutor's perspective, Cynthia Franklin, she seems to be very open to the idea of regulating this kind of like alcohol.
No, they're really on that front. I mean, it's going back and forth. It has its pluses and its minuses, but they're working it out. They're not trying to impede its progress in any way. They're trying to implement it in a well-managed fashion. And that's the only issue they have with these businesses. Isn't anything about the business or what they're doing. It's their timing and their way of going about it. And they're not waiting for those rules and those regulations to be in place.
Yeah, and Ben, that's one of the things that we've hit on early on. A lot of people that are new to the industry believe that the regulations are impeding things and stuff like that. And I keep preaching that it's the regulations that will truly set you free. Because once you know how to play the game, and once law enforcement and legislators and city councils and everybody else understands how to play the game, then the game can move forward. And, you know, when these people jump the gun, I mean, I understand their enthusiasm, don't get me wrong.
Believe me, I do.
Yeah, but until those regulations are in place, nobody knows what the rules are. You can't play a game unless you know what the rules are.
Right. It'd be like a football team hitting the field and realizing the other team's got a rugby rule book. Nobody know what the hell's going on.
Or it'd be like somebody letting air out of footballs.
Oh, yes. You know, that's interesting. You mentioned that you were actually at the Potlucks Event Center with that's Teresa Collins' place. How was that?
Well, I spent my 3 minutes before my assembly last night talking about it. I'm a career bartender. I've been 27 years in the industry, almost exclusively as a night bartender. So, you know, I've worked in the busiest, craziest clubs. I've worked in, you know, political bars. I've worked in dive bars, you name it. And I spent hours in that place in absolute amazement. Like you said, it's a place where you can bring your own and people share. So it's kind of an unregulated consumption, which doesn't happen in a bar environment. And there were no problems, no loud voices, no yelling, no passing out, nobody getting sick. I mean, I've done enough events, you know, weddings and such, where it is somewhat of an open consumption atmosphere. And there's always a problem. Uncle Bob's mad and knocks something off the table. Somebody, you know, gets a little crazy over in the corner. Nothing happened. I ended my presentation to the assembly with one simple statement that means a lot to me. This is a type of environment I would like my daughter to spend her 21st birthday in.
Amen.
To a bar, it's phenomenal.
You know, that's an interesting point, Ben. We have the original Campus Club we opened up 3 years ago, Studio A64.com, and we had to face. I know you have, and
I love it.
We had to face 2 cease and desist orders. You know, they threatened to shut us down and put me in jail for that, and we refused. With Mr. Houghton's help, we defended that business model not once but twice. So I hope that Teresa Collins up there can work together with the cities to help establish that model. You said it yourself. It's just a beautiful event. People come in there, and it's cannabis consumption. It's safer than alcohol. I think that's pretty simple to look at statistically. What's Teresa Collins' plans now?
I don't know. I chatted with her briefly, but she was very, very busy. She was, you know, it was a hosted, sponsored event for the convention up there for the Cup. So we all, if any of us have had anything to do with any of those types of things, we know we're running crazy. But she was happy. She was thrilled. She was glad to be doing it. Glad to be where we're all at in this. You know, at this point in time, we really thought we'd be further back.
Yeah, and
so
Ben, I can I guess give an amen to what you're talking about. I worked my way through college and law school as a bartender, and you know, you see everything. There's not much worse than you know, people have a little bit too much to drink, and then there's fights. And you know, and I work in dive bars, and I work in the world's largest American Legion club in Lincoln, Nebraska. And you know, it was like Saturday night when the wedding receptions were in the club. You know, you're right. Uncle Bob spills something, somebody gets too far into their cup, then, you know, words are said and it gets ugly. The other thing that resonated with me is that I've got a daughter who's 24 years old, will be 25. She's a manager of a center, a medical marijuana center. We call them centers in Colorado instead of dispensaries. A medical marijuana center in Denver. And I would much have her managing that center, that dispensary, than I would managing a bar. Just because I believe it's a lot safer. She's a lot happier than she would be if she had to deal with people that had too much to drink. And so when you said those two things, I'm just sitting here going, yeah, amen, man. I've been there as a bartender, and I got a daughter that, you know, she's doing it on a day-to-day basis, and I'd much rather have her there than anywhere where they serve alcohol.
Yes, sir.
It's interesting. We have 2 bartenders.
I own a bar and leave that to her, and I'm very thankful that path didn't mature, that I got out of that business, and I'm going down the one I am now, because she has a lot more opportunity and will have a much more fulfilling and, enjoyable life.
So it sounds like, Ben, you're doing exactly what we talk about here. You took the education and you're preparing, working with the legislative bodies, preparing your business, Ben. What are your plans up there in Alaska?
Well, Top Hat Cannabis is hopefully going to be the pinnacle of the North.
Let's talk about Top Hat Cannabis.
We welcome competition because, as a bartender, my goal was always to train people to be better than me. So that one day I'd look over and go, whoops, I guess I need to step up my game. I don't want to sit on my heels. I mean, we're in Juneau. We're in a landlocked place, and the black market cannabis that's come in here forever. We haven't had a selective market. We haven't had a medical market like a lot of places in the lower 48. It's what lands on our doorstep, what brought in from California, and
what you're creating is actually a 100% Alaska. You're creating a 100% Alaskan solution. I'm following you loud and clear, Ben. I've watched you work at this for a year and a half. You have been tireless. Ben attended the academy. We had over 150 people in the room that day as clients and students. But Ben stood out. Ben stepped up. Ben took a testimonial. Ben talked to us afterwards. Ben kept calling. And right now, Ben, it sounds like Top Hat Cannabis. Is that it?
THC Alaska, baby.
I get it. THC Alaska. Top Hat
very
Cannabis.
nice.
I like that. And that's going to be are you looking for a cultivation, infusion,
We're
sales?
going vertical.
Are you going to do it all?
We want to do it all. We want to be able to make sure that we present the best product, the best medicine, and the best time to anybody and everybody that shows up on our doorstep.
Okay, and Ben is a perfect example of what we're talking about. Ben is not a professional politician. He's a professional bartender. But he'd had enough of late nights dealing with drunks. And God, I feel your pain, buddy, because I worked in a couple of bars where it was a shot and a beer and a fight every night.
A shot, beer, and a fight every night. I like that.
Yeah, and and I became more close friends with the local police officers than I did with my fellow bartenders and waitresses. I mean, it was just it was one of those places, a good time sort of, but I was really, really glad to get out of it. But if you're listening, listen to his story. He became educated. He's chasing the American dream. He's going to live the American dream. And part of what you're hearing is he wants to leave something that he's proud of as a legacy for his children.
Top Hat Cannabis. THC Alaska. I like it, man.
I do too. And I just, I applaud you for the not give up, because the people in this industry, they just don't give up. And
it has not been easy, has it been? How has the last year and a half been for you up in Alaska to get to this point?
Well, my kid's grown about a foot. My wife is starting to get gray hairs, but we're still smiling. And I was homeschooling my child for 2 years prior to this. And last year, when about 4 months into this path, it was during her break, she came up to me and went, I think I want to go back to regular school so you can get this done.
Yeah, that's a good.
She had enough awareness that she knew how important it was that she.
Well, you give up your life for this when you do
these. That's not a word that fits anywhere into this, but it hasn't been. There's not 1 minute I would change or give up because it's worked. We're in a great relationship with some of the other people going forward in this industry locally. We're all in it for the same goal. We're in the Capitol at the same time. We're in the Assembly at the same time.
Well, Alaska has really gathered its forces.
Well,
you've done very well up there, Ben.
Yeah, and the thing too is that you'll find that there is a certain camaraderie there, but I can hear it in your voice that while it's been a burden, and I can tell you that your kid grew a foot, she probably grew 6 inches, and you probably lost 6 inches from being stooped over from all the work that you're doing. But the bottom line is you can hear it in Ben's voice, and that is that he's passionate about that. And when you're working at something that you're passionate about, it's not really work, is it?
No, it's just the way to go, the way to do it. One of our team members that's going to be in our cultivation team had a chat with him just last week, and it was just that kind of looking at him going, look, man, you're the first round pick in the first round, you know, and just watching his eyes light up and have that realization. It's like, you need to lead these people and show them what we're doing, not find the faults, step over the faults and keep moving on and show them how to keep moving.
We're going to keep moving on too, and we have about 20 seconds till break. But if you're listening to us across America and across the globe, Ben has shown the way. If you educate yourself and position yourself, you can open Top Hat Cannabis. This is KC live on the Cannabusiness Attorney with Mr. Charles T. Howard. See you on the other side.
Thank you.
All Day Vapor Lab. If you like their e-juices, tell your friends. If not, let them know. And
All clear.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Ben.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, give my best to the team up there. Let me know what's going on. We'll keep calling out to you as things. If something happens up there that's big, just text me and we'll get you back on.
Excellent. Yeah, they're doing interviews for the board today.
Okay, interviews for the board today. We'll add that. We'll move on. Thank you, sir. Keep me posted, Ben.
Keep it up, brother.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. Nice to chat with you, sir.
Yep.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Check out VeroBeach5star.com. VeroBeach5star.com is totally independent. No restaurant pays for a listing. Looking for the best hotels in Vero Beach, Florida? Check out
I want to go to Vero.
VeroBeach5star.com. VeroBeach5star.com
That does
is
sound nice,
totally
doesn't it?
independent.
You
No
know,
hotel pays for a
that
listing.
was,
Remember, for the best restaurants and the best hotels in the Vero Beach,
people are
Florida
not
area,
going to
Vero Beach 5-star.
he's living proof that you can be ugly as Martians and not be able to sing and still be rock.
You're right. He's great. He's a songwriter. Singer songwriter, man. Just, Alaska's moving uniquely.
Yeah, they're moving quick.
That'd be fun to go up there. I really want to get up to Alaska. Just the time over. The season's running. We gotta get there before the summer. What do you have for the next?
Talk a little bit about Utah. All right, we'll win it.
Utah, Seaville, and Alabama, decriminalization bill.
Many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now. Call 1-800-203-7718. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now. 1-800-203-7718. That's 1-800-203-7718.
Oh my God. Look at
60.
Little sunshine, nice. Thank you, Chicago.
there's an apparition in the sky that I haven't seen in weeks.
Like many of the million people,
I had about the page.
I'm in pain every single day. Sometimes my nerves are so raw that I'm crushed because we
One of my clients is building a house. The general
can't
contractor
sleep at night.
fucked that up, right?
Sometimes the spasms in my legs are so intense.
No.
Back in 30. I tried the strongest prescription medications available. I'll tell you, they do not work. In fact, really was stupid.
AJ has nothing in there.
It's impossible to even live your life. Now, I've tried medical marijuana. I'm going to tell you something. It works. If you'd like more information about medical marijuana, you can contact the Marijuana Policy Project at MPP.org or call
15.
Join MPP.
Denver might be a mile high, but we're, crap. I swear I had something for this. K-High, the weed talk station.
I like that, Michelle. This is a fantastic Friday. Nice to see you in Chicago. Good news today. I like that. We just talked in line with Ben up in Alaska talking about the fast, rapid movement and how laws and how you can prepare your business for success while you're getting stoned. Like,
Yeah, and if you ever wonder why Casey and I stay in this business, it's because of people like Ben.
he's a blast. He's a gas.
Pump us up every day. It's like, the man is on fire. He's not going to be stopped. you start working with people like that every day, it makes it worth getting out of bed.
Yeah, tip of the hat there. Those big boots and suits up there to you, Ben.
Extra tough.
Extra tough boots.
We got a new word to use in Colorado, my extra tough.
My extra tough. You got some other stuff going on too, Mr. Howden.
Yeah, Senator Mark Madsen from Saratoga Springs in Utah. He's another one of these guys that just won't quit. He introduced a bill in the Utah legislature months back, I think it was, and it failed miserably. Well, he brought it back up again, and he's beginning to get a little bit of support. First of all, the governor of Utah is saying, you know, I'd like to hear more about this. Instead of just saying no, he's saying, I'd like to hear more about this. And so that's a giant step in the right direction. And some of the quotes from Mr. Madsen are just, you know, they're classic. He said, speaking to a committee on Wednesday, Madsen urged his fellow lawmakers to avoid getting caught up in reefer madness. And God, you gotta love it. And he says you have to push past generations of propaganda and misleading information and get to the reality about the substance.
Yeah, the reality is that it is safer than alcohol. It has absolute healing potential. We've seen that from PTSD to epilepsy to MS to traumatic brain injury to children with Dravat. So it really is just seeing it really for what it is.
Yeah, and you know, he said that the debate is fraught with fear-mongering and misrepresentation. For instance, Senator Vickers challenged Madsen's assertions about cannabis, claiming that in other states there were cannabis oils with such high concentration they are seeing some serious side effects and serious deaths with those. Madsen fired back with asking for his evidence. It would be very interesting to see in seeing the studies that show the death was caused by the amount of substance in the bloodstream. Now, I got a couple things I got to say while I'm thinking about it. Number one, I understand serious side effects, but serious death, isn't all death pretty serious?
That's a very good point, Mr. Howden.
You know, I am looking at, you know, that's, first of all, Senator Vickers, I would challenge you to listen to Representative Madsen and give us your, you know, show us one instance where a high level of THC or any of the cannabinoids or cannabinoids in marijuana caused a death. You know, I'm not aware of anyone anywhere. I'm certainly not aware of one in Colorado because it would have made headline news times 10. And so when he says that the debate is fraught with fear-mongering and misrepresentation, he's right on. That is an out-and-out misrepresentation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If we look across this country, there's actually law enforcement officers and former sheriffs that are, you know, coming out of the cannabis closet, so to speak. And imagine a former sheriff, and I quote, "Marijuana is not a public safety threat. As I reflect on 32 years of law enforcement, marijuana prohibition hasn't worked." And that's former sheriff of Cumberland County. This is the facts. If you look at it for what it is, and we stop this reefer madness insanity of how it's a gateway drug and how it's dangerous and how it creates all this crime. The only crime is treating cannabis as a criminal offense.
Yes, if you treat people like criminals, then they're going to act like criminals, number one.
And fill your jails, right?
You know, and we are not advocating in any level that you use marijuana in any form irresponsibly. Don't medicate and go drive. You know, it's pretty simple. Don't operate heavy machinery while you're stoned. It's pretty simple to figure these things out. But if there is a real live problem, then let's get it out and address it. But it has to be real. And so far, I still keep hearing over and over and over again these archaic, absolutely ludicrous statements coming out of people that are supposed to be educated.
They should, yes, you would think
You
that
know,
as leaders and representatives, they would have the ability to know.
Yeah, or maybe do a little bit of research. You know, if someone died because of cannabis oil,
I'd like to see it because I
I
don't
would
believe it's
too.
possible. I don't believe it's possible. We talked to doctors. I have over 4,000 patients, and I do not think it's possible to overdose on cannabis.
yeah, I think you either fall asleep or you throw up.
That
Whatever.
is what happens. You know, there's some good news here, actually, Mr. Howden. Also coming out of the Maine legislators, Criminal Justice Committee, holding public hearings on 2 bills that could legalize recreational retail adult use marijuana in the state of Maine. And that was just yesterday. Supporters of the legislation are saying that it's inevitable in Maine, so why postpone that? The proposal would allow for anyone over the age of 21 to purchase cannabis and would have a 15% potential sales tax on that. So we're seeing from Maine to Alaska, really from sea to shining sea, Pacific to Atlantic to the Arctic, that cannabis is actually winning the war on ignorance when sheriffs and justice departments are really committing and saying themselves, quote, marijuana is not a public safety threat. Sheriff, bingo.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is the
and
truth. Trust the sheriff. If you don't trust me, trust the sheriff.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody who's been on the front line for 32 years. And the other thing too is that, you know, as we move through this, it's part of human nature to find it difficult to admit that you were wrong. And, you know, if you're dealing with legislators, if you're dealing with boards of county commissioners, if you're dealing with city councils, it doesn't do any good to berate them about, you know, how wrong they were about their policies. Same with state legislatures and even the federal government. You can't change what's happened in the past, but you can change what's going to happen in the future. You know, our buddy Ben up in Alaska is living proof. If you want something to happen, then be the agent of change.
You know, you mentioned that, Mr. Howden. The agent of change, it is you. And there's another report I'd like to bring up here because it does affect America all across this country. Louisiana Senate Judiciary Committee approves bill to reform draconian marijuana possession laws. And this is what we're talking about. The U.S. has the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world. And get this, Louisiana has the highest rate in the United States. So if you're listening to us in Baton Rouge, this is a good day and we need to support this. Louisiana's incarceration rate has doubled in the last 20 years. That's nearly 5 times higher than Iran's, 13 times higher than China's, and 20 times higher than Germany's. There are 18,000 Louisiana residents arrested in drug law violations each year. This cost us human lives, human capital, and millions of dollars. So right now, if this bill passes in Louisiana, it would stop those draconian measures, and the headline says save millions of dollars. I'd like to add save thousands of lives, maybe 18,000 a year. But when we have an incarceration rate that's higher than Iran's, 13 times higher than China's, it's probably the law that's wrong, not the people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the prescription is messed up, not the patient in this particular case. And that's, you know, glowing example of how bad the war on drugs is failing. And you have to also look not only at the cost of holding a prisoner in jail, but if it's a marijuana related offense, let's take a hard look at what the societal cost. That is a set of children whose mother or father is in jail. That is a set of children who have to have the stigma of saying, yeah, my dad's in jail, my mom's in jail, whatever.
Well, you know, you bring that up, Mr. Howden. There's one tragic case reported here. Bernard Noble, a father of 7, is serving 13 years behind bars after being in possession of 2 joints in Louisiana.
Yeah, 7 kids that are being deprived of the pleasure, and the father being deprived of the pleasure of being a parent or having a parent for 2 joints.
And why did this happen? Because of Louisiana's draconian drug laws and the 3rd strike rule. We've heard that. this poor gentleman, Bernard
2
Noble,
minutes.
was found on a third strike for he had 2 prior minor drug offenses. So for 2 joints, we're going to send a father of 7 to jail for 13 years behind bars.
I mean, that's
at what cost?
Yeah, I mean, what societal cost are we espousing by doing this? Now, I'm not saying that all drug dealers should run free, because drug dealers shouldn't. You know, if they're pushing meth or cocaine or, you know, anything else like that, I think they belong in jail. But if you take a look at you know, marijuana and where it's going in the country and everything like that, to have someone serving 13 years
for 2 joints
in
America,
there's something horribly wrong with the system.
So that's what they're going to try to fix with this committee approves the bill. So if that does go into effect, Mr. Howden, it'll make it a minor offense, and that is so good to hear. That's a good news story. I hope that they can push that through and through Louisiana's legislature.
Yeah, and so here on the Cannabis Business Attorney Hour, what we want to push is, you know, people like Ben that are moving forward in the industry and living the dream that they want to. I encourage you all to come out to Kansas City on June 5th.
Uptown Theater, baby.
Uptown Theater, and see Casey and I live in person. We're a lot more fun live and in person than we are on the radio. But we will be there, and we're going to have a great time. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on the other side. Peace.
I ain't seen my baby since I don't know when. I've been drinking bourbon whiskey, scotch and gin. Gonna get high, man, I'm gonna get loose. Need me a triple.
Hey, hi, 1580, the world's first station dedicated to marijuana awareness. How in the world can we talk?